Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in today to my channel. I just finished one video and now I'm jumping on, pressing play for another. I want you guys to know all about my experience with COVID-19. I know that talking about COVID-19 on the internet is probably a bad idea because a lot of people get censored for this, but guess what? I want to share. We got COVID-19 2 weeks ago. My husband got it from work. He works at the hospital, so we assumed we would get it. At the very beginning of everything in March, I was nervous all the time. I was like panically making my husband take a shower every day after work to take off his clothes, put them immediately in the dryer so we could dry them all through or wash them, depending on what day it was. Because he would wear his khakis a lot of times, over and over. And I wouldn't let him touch anything, not me or the dog or whatever. And we would just sanitize him because I was so nervous about us getting it. Especially because my husband has an easy time catching things that are respiratory and he's had pneumonia twice from just bronchitis. So yeah, I was fearful. But I was also keeping up with vitamins. We've been working on our health for a long time. I mean, my husband in particular, he's definitely lost weight and gained it back several times. He's super good at losing weight. He just has to cut down on some calories, cut down on some sugar, and he's fine. Me, on the other hand, it takes more work than that. So, what can you do? But, we both, when we got married over a year ago, we were both at lighter weights and we both gained about 30 pounds this year. So jumping into the COVID season, we were 30 pounds heavier than we were the year before, and which just seems ridiculous to say, but every month, if you just in the month 2 to 3 pounds heavier than you were, then it kind of adds up. And if you're not weighing yourselves like we did, because I could not find a space in our house that the scale would go on, because it would just jump around. It was different everywhere because our floors are uneven because we have an older hardwood floor at home. So we finally found a spot, which is actually in my office right beside my chair. It's just in the weirdest place. But yeah, we weren't weighing, we weren't keeping track. So, we were settling in, making fun food and just enjoying being married. So a lot of food, a lot of sex, and just, sitting a ton. We weren't super active together. We just enjoyed being each other's company. And so that was a big part of it. I think that also there was the other part of, we had a chemical pregnancy back in August when we got married, we got married in May. So in August we had a chemical pregnancy, and my body was just being weird, and I started to feel a lot of adjustment issues and stress, and so then I was just not really myself. So I was going to Food for Comfort too, probably for one of the first times in my life I was really seeking out food for comfort. So all of that together just made me get to a spot where we were trying to work on our health, but it wasn't working very great. We weren't having a lot of progress. Before I started Optavia, I had lost 5 pounds or 6 pounds on my own, but it took me several months to do so. And my husband, I don't think he had lost any at that point. I think he was still up 30 or so pounds from the year. So I knew that both of us were just not as healthy as we were the year before. I knew that our schedules were just really intense because I was seeing a lot of people at work, and he was having crazy hours, and we have an hour commute to work and back. So there's just a lot more stress. So I was nervous about that. So I started working on our vitamin routine, our food routine. Even though we were having to stockpile on foods that were unhealthy, we really worked to make sure we weren't just eating that stuff that we had it for emergency food, times, but we didn't end up eating all the bad stuff we got. And of course, the bad stuff was only a few things. So I don't know. You know, we were very preventative at the very beginning. I would say even through, when was it? Maybe through July. We were still being super proactive, taking a lot of vitamins. You know, we were both working on weight loss. Of course, in July is when I started Optavia. So, you know, we've had a lot of weight loss since then. I think my husband was kind of keeping in line with me. I think he'd lost about 10 pounds, 10 or 12 pounds before he got COVID. So, I don't know. We were trying, but we kind of slacked off. Like, I'd slacked off on the obsessive showering, and I slacked off on the vitamin protocol of every single day taking vitamin C and vitamin D, making him take the multivitamins and stuff like that. So even though our nutrition was really good, I had slacked off on the supplements. And I had never jumped into the let's clean everything like crazy bandwagon, just because I'm like, it doesn't make sense. If we're cleaning our bodies before we get home, then we should be fine. But I did keep natural sanitizer because I do not believe in hand sanitizer that's chemical. It kills everything on your body. So I try to use ones that are a little bit healthier, more like, you know, just soap and water, since they say that is the biggest preventer of COVID is to just do normal hand soap and water, because the suds itself break down those molecules. So, you know, I try to avoid our toxicity since I have hormone issues, and so doing natural hand sanitizer, we would keep that in the car and do that every time we got in and out of stores and whatever, and you know, all of those things, including wearing masks when we have to. So I mean, we were preventative. However, he got COVID from work, which makes sense because he's been in the COVID rooms since, I don't know, March. They have COVID floors at work, and he does IT. So he's been on those floors in those rooms with those patients, all that. So months and months and months of that, and he has not caught it. But he got it from one of his coworkers. So who knows if the coworker got it from one of the COVID floors or what. But he went out to lunch with one of his coworkers, and then maybe like 3 other guys on a Friday, 2 Fridays ago. And his friend was not feeling well that day, but he didn't really think about it. He was just like, I just feel off. I don't really know what it is. But then that afternoon, after they went to lunch, he was just like, man, I just don't feel well. And so he went home. And he ended up testing positive for COVID. So they had no idea. So all the guys who went to lunch with him all ended up sick and out of work on Monday, including my husband. And they all tested positive for COVID. So they got it at work. I am assuming this is most logical. They also work in a very small atmosphere. So they're all in one room because that's the way IT works. And they work on hardware and stuff like that. So they all got it. And all of them have had it very differently. So my husband started showing symptoms on Sunday. He woke up that morning and said, man, my throat is really sore. And all day he talked about that. Like, man, my throat is sore. And then that night, he ended up getting a fever. We took a long nap in the afternoon. And he woke up and he just did not feel well. And he stayed unwell for 2 weeks. It was crazy. I started not feeling great. But I was like, oh, I just must be fighting it, you know. I got a fever. My first fever was Wednesday. So he got a fever on Sunday. I got a fever Wednesday. But I was really achy and stuff like that starting on Tuesday night, and it just continued. So I really had a 2-day turnaround time. In retrospect, my husband was having gastrointestinal issues on Saturday. So one day after he was with those guys. So most likely it sounds like he got it before that lunchtime because they were all working together and, talking and stuff like that. And as far as the hospital mandates were, they didn't have to wear a mask if they were in the office, but they had to wear a mask if they were in the client room or patient rooms and in the hallways and all that stuff. So they weren't wearing a mask with each other. But now, because of this little outbreak, they do require that. So that stinks for going back when he goes back tomorrow, because that's a lot of mask wearing. That's a lot of mask wearing. Yeah, so all of those guys got COVID too. I don't know how all of them are doing now, but I know that all of them had milder versions of it than my husband did. So my husband had a fever he still had a fever yesterday. So he has had a fever for 15 days. He has lost in 15 days 18 pounds. Why? Because he has had the gastrointestinal issues, so a lot of diarrhea, and absolutely no appetite. So eating one meal to possibly 2 meals a day, he just hasn't felt like eating because he's had a fever for most days, most of the day, every day, for 15 days. So that's just been tough on him. He looks amazing with all his weight loss he's done, but his poor body. So he, I don't remember what other symptoms he's had. Now I can't think straight. Fever every day, headaches, diarrhea. He had a dry cough. The cough developed into a more serious cough and all that. I wouldn't say he had, well, no, I guess he did. I would say, yeah, he's had trouble breathing. But it wasn't like he had trouble breathing and then we got attention for it. It was like we decided to get him checked out, and then they gave him an inhaler, and then he started having trouble breathing, and he was having an inhaler. So it was kind of a weird thing. But the beginning of last week, his fevers were just still high. They had been just like 100 to 101 every day. But then he started getting them for a few days in the 101 to 102 range. One day he had a 103, and that day really scared me because it was 103.5. He was having to take Tylenol just to lower them down because he was just so achy. It's like so many body aches every time he had a fever. And his schedule was like, he didn't stay awake. Like, he would sleep all night. He would wake up for like 4 or 5 hours. He would go back to sleep for like 4 or 5 hours in the afternoon. Then wake up, do 3, 4, or 5 hours awake, and then go back to bed. So that was just like his little COVID schedule for the first like week and a half. So last week, with the spiking fever, and I felt like there was some other reason. What was it? I think he was having to clear his throat a lot, just like a thing, and he was having that constantly. So we got, it was that with his oxy numbers were a little bit low. So we had gotten one of those pulse ox readers, so you just put it on your finger and it shows you your heart rate and your oxygen level, because the doctor had said that was the best thing to do if you had COVID at home. So we did that, and we were keeping track of it, and his numbers were consistently getting low when he was laying down, as in your ideal numbers, like for good oxygen, are 98 or 96 to 100. He was dipping into 91. At one point, it got to 89 when I had woken him up one night because I was like, "You don't sound right. Like something's going on." So he got a chest X-ray. They said that it was definitely COVID clear. He didn't have pneumonia, but it looked like he had some mucus in there. And so they gave him an inhaler and an antibiotic just to make sure that he wasn't getting it, getting a bacterial infection, since that's very common in COVID. And so he started those, I guess, last maybe Tuesday or something. So he's been on it like 5 days. And that has been a good thing because right when he started getting the inhaler, he started like coughing so much that he couldn't catch his breath. And a lot of times that was inhaler induced. But he said that there was just such a big difference from taking the inhaler to not. So like he does it every 4 hours. He still can't stretch to 6, but every 4 hours he does the inhaler, and he says he can tell the difference. All of a sudden his lungs will start changing and he can't breathe as well. And so even though he's breathing, it's just really different. Like he has trouble, like, I don't know, with excessive coughing, and the coughing gets to gagging. He says there's like this crazy tickle that happens when he doesn't have the inhaler. So the inhaler has been a huge blessing, and he's really, really recovering. He has had, I want to say, he's still coughing. I want to say, like, energy level wise, he's improved. Like, he started getting his personality back last week. He used to be, just in zombie mode and really sick and just looked really bad. He was just, sitting and just like zonked out of it, and then he would sleep, and that's all he would do for a good week. And even though last week his fevers were getting a little bit higher, I could tell there was still a difference because he was getting his personality back. So that was a good sign to me, where he had humor and he could stay awake and without having to take his afternoon nap. So he hasn't done an afternoon nap in a couple of days. So that's also positive. His fevers have also gone down. So like last night, I think it was 100.5, and last night was the first night he didn't take Tylenol to break the fever, just because he was like, I'm feeling okay enough to handle it. So that was good. And today, I think this afternoon, his fever was 100.3. So he tends to start to get fevers around like 4 or 5 o'clock. It's very viral like. So there's improvement. Definitely. He could breathe better and all that. My COVID experience has been completely different. I had a fever for 3 nights, and then I had 2 or 3 nights of no fever. And then day 8, I got a fever again. So they say that happens. They say around a week, so day 7 or 8 or so, you will probably have felt better for a couple of days, but you will have a second wind of it and get sick again, and that is what I did. So I was only struggling for the 3 or 4 days with a very low grade fever, so like 101 was my max. 101 point maybe 8, so it got close to 102, I guess. And that was really the only thing that was happening to me. And I think I had some little bit of a headache, and I think a few times my stomach got upset. But once the fever went away, then I was dizzy for a couple of days. So even though I didn't have a fever for 3 days, I got this crazy dizziness that would happen quite a bit. Like so dizzy where you're just like sitting there and your whole brain, it felt like seasickness. If you've ever been seasick, you know what I'm talking about. It's an excessive swirly head feeling where you feel like you are moving and you're not, and it makes you so weird feeling. It's like your brain is dizzy here, your stomach is dizzy like you need to throw up. Like it's just really odd, and I got those multiple times. I do not know why, but severe dizziness. And then that went away. I think those days I was also having a lot of like aches in my hands and stuff like that. And then my fevers came back. And so I got a fever for 2 or 3 nights. And so I've been fever free now for 2 days. But that was just, it was weird. It was really weird. And I could tell those days when it was happening, because like the whole day I would stay at like a 99 temperature, just not quite right, all that. So that was bizarre. But the weirdest thing that both of us had was the loss of taste and smell. And he got it a couple of days, just like everything else. A couple of days before I did. And he kept describing it. He was like, I can't taste. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Okay. And he kept complaining about it. I was like, why is that such a big deal? I don't understand. I get it, But my thing was that I didn't realize it was happening. Because I think I had started, what was it? Maybe I don't know. I think for dinner one night I had a bar. And I thought, this is a new bar. I haven't tried it. This doesn't have a lot of taste. Why is this good? It's just really weird. The consistency is weird. Doesn't have a lot of taste. What is this? I brushed my teeth that night and I was thinking, man, why is brushing my teeth kind of strange tonight? Like, why was that an odd experience? It just was different. I didn't understand what was going on. I couldn't taste the toothpaste and I didn't realize it. It just felt like there wasn't any toothpaste in my mouth. I was like, this is really strange. Okay. I don't know. And so then the next morning, I don't remember what I had for breakfast. I think it was one of those bars again. I was like, why does that not taste very good? Oh, or it was cereal, something like that. I think I had cereal, and I didn't really think about it because, with cereal, you still taste the crunchy and the milk. Even though you can't taste the taste, you still have the cold and the dry or whatever. And so I didn't really think about it. But somebody brought us lunch, and they brought us hibachi chicken. So I had chicken and like zucchini, carrots, and onions. And when I was eating it, like I realized when we were unpackaging it, I guess, I was like, honey, I can't smell this. And he was like, oh, that's a good point. I said, me and hibachi, like hibachi's my favorite. I feel like I'm having like mouth orgasms every time I eat hibachi. I love it so much. And I was like, I can't smell this. It doesn't smell good. I can't smell anything. And like we got it and I like brought it up to my nose and was like, okay, I can barely smell a faint something. This is so weird. And we were eating it and I was so mad. I was like, this chicken just tastes like a hint of salt. It tastes like nothing is on this. Every bite of vegetables just tasted like water. And I was so mad. I was like, this should be such a delicious meal. This is so unsatisfying. I ate half of it. I wasn't happy. I was like, this is so weird. I think I've lost my taste of smell. Or taste and smell. And it was true. I did. And he did. And so that has been well over a week now that we have both not been able to smell and taste anything. I decided that in a weird way it feels like a disability because if you have two adults living in one house and you can't smell anything, it seems a little dangerous. Such as, let me tell you why. My dad came over and put some bug bombs under the house and he was like, okay, it shouldn't come up into the house. I don't know. I was like, well, how would I know? Because I can't smell anything. So if I need to like open up the windows or doors, I won't have any idea. Well, I got like a headache, like I don't know. So I thought about that. I was like, that's kind of strange. Like how many things do you kind of keep an eye on because of your sense of smell? Quite a bit, like we have gas in our house. Like, that's something that you kind of have to keep track of sometimes. My parents get weird gas smells sometimes in their kitchen, and I generally smell them and I'm like, hey, I smell something funky. You need to turn off that eye or whatever. That's just weird. And there was something else that was kind of weird like that. Oh, I thought about how I couldn't smell the trash. And I was thinking, that trash was starting to smell yesterday and I smell nothing. We probably had smelly trash in our house and we're smelling it for 2 days and had no idea until I really thought, oh, you know what? This probably smells and I just don't know. I thought about it with the dishes. I was like, we were too sick to do dishes for a couple of days. And of course, nobody could come help us because we didn't want them to get sick. And so we had a sink full of dishes. And I thought, I bet all that smells and I can't smell it. But the same thing with like the dog pooping in the house. Couldn't smell it. I just had to watch out for it. And then with essential oils, we do a lot of the Thieves essential oils for immunity and just helping boost your immune system. So I had that going in the house constantly and I couldn't smell it whatsoever. At one point, I had put some stuff on my husband's feet. And so I was holding the bottles in one hand and I didn't realize that I had anything on my hands. I had no idea. But as I was sitting there talking to him, I remember that I had touched my nose, just kind of like, I guess, doing a tickle or something. And a minute or something later, I realized, like, my nose is burning. How come? That's really weird. Why would my nose be burning on the inside? And I looked down at my hands and I realized there was some on my hands that my hands were wet. Couldn't feel it, couldn't smell it. And you know, essential oils, especially ones like these, it is so strong. And a lot of times it'll make your eyes water. But my eyes weren't watering. So I think it has something to do with your sense of smell to make your eyes water. I don't know. So I'd gotten it in my nose and I had no idea. So I had to put like coconut oil inside my nose, which was so weird, but it really worked. So like I put it up both sides and just kind of like let it melt down and wiped it out. And then I did the same thing a couple of times and then the burning went away. I was like, I could have really hurt myself. So from then on out, I've had to just keep an eye on my hands. If I have essential oils that I'm like putting in something to clean or whatever, I've just had to make sure I don't have it on my hands so I don't get it in my eyes or on my nose or in my mouth or whatever. So that's been a really weird thing. And it's just made food not taste good. So everything we're eating, I kind of have hated. To be honest, I've only liked doing bars or cereal because all of the meat has been weird. I made soup a couple of times and it was okay because I could sense the difference between the fat and the broth and cream, I guess, in a soup. And of course, you know, other textures, but anything like hamburger and turkey, or I'm sure fish would be the same way. I don't want any of it. Like that just grossed me out because I couldn't taste any flavor. It was just spongy or chewy and it was just really gross without a sense of taste. It's so strange. And so I have only wanted chicken. And so we've just eaten a lot of chicken. Like every single meal the last 5 nights has been chicken because nothing else tastes good or seems good because of the texture. So I've like cereals and bars and chicken and that's it. It's been really strange. So it's been good to, you know, eat like that because it's helped with weight loss. Last week I lost 4 pounds. This week so far I've lost 2. I think a little over 2, but my week's not done yet. But it has made me struggle this week because of loss of appetite. So like I've had to make myself eat. A few days I underate by accident and then I woke up really hungry and had to eat in the middle of the night, and then that throws off weight loss too because then your body's like, we didn't get a break, why are you eating? So that was why I haven't lost anything in the last 2 days. But it's been really strange. And so the last 2 days as well, I think both of us have had some of the taste and smell start to come back. And the reason why we know, of course, is because a little bit of smells we can pick up on. So I can have an essential oil on my hand and put it up to my nose and I can now smell that. But it can be in the diffuser and I still can't smell it. Or, you know, somewhere else in the room. I can't smell anything unless it's directly under my nose. So weird. And he's the same way. I think it's going to come back really slowly because I can now taste something if it's really salty. I can taste the salt. I can tend to pick up on what creamy tastes like. I don't know if I'm tasting creamy or if it's the texture. I'm not sure, but I can sense that. I tried to eat a beef patty with cheese on it and a little bit of ketchup, and I realized the only thing I could taste on that was the ketchup. So there's something to do with particular things. I'm not sure what that is. I can taste my cereal a little bit better now, but only the sweet one, the berry one. Can't taste the cinnamon one. It's the strangest thing to me. So my husband's the same way. Only a few things he can pick up on, and it tends to be the salty stuff or the sweeter stuff. We don't eat sugar, of course, so we wouldn't really know since we're not eating desserts, but the stuff that might have a little bit of sugar in it, like tomato, seems like I can pick up on that. But as far as smell goes, it doesn't really seem like we've changed in that department unless it's just in my face. That is the weirdest thing. So I'm really excited about that coming back because when you can't smell and you can't taste, nothing tastes good, and then you have zero appetite. So I think that's been a big part of why he's lost weight too, is because he doesn't feel like eating. Nothing tastes good. Nothing's satisfying. A lot of drinks kind of messed up the texture for him too. So like, he likes the carbonated, which I just changed that too. And it was really, really bad for a good like 5 days or so. And then I think I got used to it a little bit. I could drink water again, but I didn't want water because water was hard to swallow because I don't know, couldn't taste the water. And I know some people say, you can't taste water. I can definitely taste water and it tastes so good. But yeah, all I did was like diet sodas or like the Diet Gatorade. Gatorade Zero. It's been weird. It's really weird. So it kind of messed us up quite a bit there. But COVID is strange. I'm very grateful that we stayed out of the hospital because I was pretty sure for a couple of days there with his like cough attack stuff that was happening at the inhaler time. And there was 1 or 2 times where he couldn't breathe for a couple minutes, as he said. I mean, he could still breathe, but he just couldn't catch his breath. I really thought we would have to go to the hospital for that. So I would say the hardest part about COVID is the emotional roller coaster for the person who is more well. I mean, my husband definitely would get nervous about things, but he was too sick to really think about it like I did. But I had a lot of support from some friends, and I have people checking on me every day, like, okay, how are you guys doing? And they still are, because we're still in isolation technically. I guess technically today we kind of got out of isolation, which is a good thing because we did go for the first time on an errand. But those people really supported me because I was just like, I need help. No one can come over. No one can help us. But this is so stressful because what do I do? If we have to send him to the hospital, I just have to drop him off. Like, how am I not going to freak out? How am I not going to have anxiety attacks? How am I not going to just, I don't know, be okay? You know, I was so nervous about that. So I had a lot of people living on me in that way, and I'm so grateful because the tail end of this COVID thing, it's been good for a couple of days, but I would say the beginning of this week was the hardest because I felt sick again, even though I'd gotten better. I was sick again, and then my husband was getting worse. So that was just really scary. Supplements that we've been taking are NAC, because NAC is an antioxidant that is amazing for lungs. So we've been taking that. We've been taking 2 of those. I think they're 600 milligrams each. 2 of those twice a day. We've been doing an insanely strong multivitamin. We've been doing 2 different capsules of vitamin C, the liposomal vitamin C, because liposomal is so much easier to absorb in your body. We've been doing 3,000 milligrams of garlic twice a day. What else have we been doing? 10,000 vitamin D. What is that? That IUI, whatever that measurement is, of vitamin D twice a day. We've been doing 50 milligrams of zinc once a day. So don't want to have too much zinc. And what else have we been doing? Magnesium. I've been making both of us take magnesium quite a bit. Every day at least once or twice. Because that's so important for your enzyme processes. So with Optavia, I've had my daily amount through my fuelings, but then I've been adding a lot more on top of that. My husband, though, I definitely know he has not been getting all those nutrients from his normal food because he has not been eating like I have because he was so much more sick. So it's been a struggle, but at least the supplements have been supporting the immune process and putting thieves on our feet. We did a lot of breathe oils or peppermint when we were having trouble with getting good breaths, because another symptom was just having a lot of the nose clog feelings. We weren't having congestion, but a lot of clogged nose for some reason, and that was the case for me too. So when I got tested for COVID, it was insanely painful because my nose was just swollen on the inside. It hurt from the second she put that in my nose, and I had heard that it was uncomfortable whenever the swab would get high into your head, your nasal cavity. That was not the case. It was immediate, and it just burned all the way up. So I think I was just really swollen. Yeah. Other things I have been doing is like making some soups with bone broth because it's good for your body. We have stayed away. I mean, of course, I'm doing Optavia, so I'm already away from sugar and, processed foods and stuff like that. But for my husband, we have been doing that as well. So he's basically been low carbing, low carb, non-inflammatory food. He has had some frozen dinners. I think that's what it is. That's his inflammatory thing, is he's been eating salty, low-calorie frozen dinners, but that's just the only thing I could get him to eat. But he will eat the soup that I make him and things like that, but, it's just been a struggle to get him to eat sometimes. He's had a lot of diet soda, and I have to, but those have been the biggies. So, yeah. That's our experience with COVID. I have been working. He has not been working. We had used up his vacation time, so he's been unpaid for these past 2 weeks, which sucks. We can't survive on my salary, but I've been working almost to full capacity. I had to just keep working through fever and all that stuff. That has been also hard. But I'm thankful that I feel better now, and he will go back to work this week. I will have a normal work schedule this week. I'm technically on day 11 from first symptoms, so I can go back into normal life, because they said 10 days was the recommended from when you had symptoms. So, but we haven't been up to it. We took an hour drive today just to get some air, and we got 2 things from the drive-thru. And I went into one store with my mask on and stayed very far away from everybody, even though I was like, I know I'm on day 11, I'm okay to be in public, but still, it just made me nervous. Like, what if I could spread it to somebody? So I stayed away from everybody. So, yeah. I'm thankful we didn't end up in the hospital. And no, we don't have any, pre-existing conditions, except for being overweight. Even though we've also been off sugar and all of that for a month, we have not been consuming sugar. So it's very interesting. And they say vitamin D, having good levels of vitamin D, decrease your chances of getting it. We were at the beach for a full week with a ton of sun exposure, and we still got it. So, who knows? But everyone that we were in contact with when we were symptomatic the weekend when he got it, none of them have gotten sick. Only my sister has had some small symptoms, and we've been wondering if she maybe got it because she had like a headache or an earache, some achiness, some congestion, and a sore throat. But she never got a fever, so I don't think she ever got tested because things were so minor for her. Teach their own. But nobody else has shown any symptoms, which we are so grateful for, because the day that he was having diarrhea and then the day that he got a sore throat, we ended up seeing family and friends, and we just didn't know he was sick. We didn't know his friend was sick. So, yeah. So that was COVID for us. I'm grateful we were out of the hospital. I'm thankful we don't have any other health conditions that made it harder. When they talk about blood type, I'm an O positive. My husband's an A positive. They say that A positive has been hitting it harder. And in our case, that was absolutely true, because I had very mild, and I was still able to work on the computer. Still able to keep up with things in the house. I just struggled with the fever for a couple of days, only at nighttime, not during the day. And then I had dizzy spells and then the loss of taste and smell. So, I don't know. But I do feel a lot of gratitude. And I'm proud of myself because I kept up with Optavia even though we were very sick. So, that's a good thing. So yeah, I have lost weight even with being sick, but my husband, being sicker, has lost a pound a day. So he's very proud of himself that he's skinnier and all that stuff. And I was like, well, maybe your body just did a massive detox, because if you're having trouble with your gastrointestinal, things, maybe that was part of it. I would say probably. But I can't help but think, like, being on low carb diet and not eating anything and doing a massive amount of sleep just led his body to just start shedding weight and using, his reserves and detoxing. So that's just where he is. So he's kind of coming for me in regards to weight loss, because now we have lost about the same amount of weight and he's just been losing it in the last 2 weeks because of COVID. So that's where I have been the last 2 weeks, is we've been battling this weird thing. Yeah. Anyway, I really hope that, even though a lot of people are getting it and it just makes sense because there's no way to actually protect absolutely everybody and keep it at bay and all that stuff, I just hope that people, like us, were able to resist the hospital and have it more mild, even though my husband kind of hit that severe category. We never had to go. So that's a beautiful, good thing. But, I just wish that for all the other people who do get it, is that it's not as bad, too. And maybe the taste of sense and smell will come back soon. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to be able to taste and smell things and enjoy simple things such as what lavender smells like and what my shampoo smells like, and just the smell of skin and sheets and things that make you happy, what outside grass smells like. Like, I can't get any of that, so I'm looking forward to that stuff returning, and maybe it'll feel normal again. That's what I pray. Maybe it won't be a couple of months. I know some people who've had COVID and they're still having symptoms months later and weeks later, and I have a feeling my husband will be like that. But I think that other than me having some fatigue, I don't think that will be the case for me, because today and yesterday I've been really fatigued and slept 10, 11 hours at night, but then during the day it just feels like I could go back to bed. So, even though I haven't had any other symptoms. So let's hope that the lasting things aren't too long. Hope so. Anyway, there is my COVID update. 43 minutes of talking about COVID. I don't know if that's interesting to a lot of people. I've had a ton of people ask me, what kind of symptoms are you having? How did it start? What was it like? Did you have shortness of breath? I would say we never really did, but our oxygen levels were lower and they were gradually getting so. And then after my husband started the inhaler, he started having trouble breathing when he would take it, because it would just like throw everything off. But it ended up helping every single time. So there you go. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. Be on the lookout for my next videos. And you guys take care and stay well. Please stay well. It's worth it to try as much as you can to keep your body super healthy, with losing weight, with taking supplements, because I wouldn't wish this on anybody. Thanks, guys. See ya.